Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Mike here. Thanks for stopping by, and hopefully you'll find this interesting. Not necessarily a tractor video, but I'm going to talk about my little pole barn hack for insulating. So if you're like me and you're always looking for inexpensive ways to deal with issues or take care of different projects around the property, then you might find this helpful. So first of all, let me tell you that if you're looking to make it pretty and awesome in your shop and make it really pristine, then you probably don't want to go this route. This is for, I want to put some insulation in the shop that's not going to cost me a lot of money, basically hardly any money, and I'm okay with it just providing some insulation. It's not going to be like a spray-in foam or like a frame-in and then insulate with fiberglass kind of thing. It's just going to add a little bit of layer protection onto the metal. You can see behind me what I'll be using. These are hot tub covers. So they usually end up in the landfill when a company discontinues a cover. The cover gets wore out and a customer replaces it. The hot tub companies take those back in exchange to deal with, and then they pay somebody to take them to the landfill. So a lot of times you can talk to different folks and find an avenue to get a hold of these. And basically I stripped all the vinyl off. There's a couple metal pieces that are inside. I take those out and then I cut them down to size and layer them in my shop, and so, or pole barn. So that's what this video is about today. I actually did the whole 36 by 48 pole barn down there in hot tub covers. I shouldn't say the entire thing. There is a small area that I used for separate storage and kind of a man cave area that I did frame and fiberglass insulate, but the rest of it's all hot tub covers. And so I'll show you how I do it. There's probably lots of different ways to get it done, but this is how I've done it. It works pretty well, and it's not a permanent install. So if you decide later, hey, I want to do something different, I want to frame it in and use fiberglass or whatever, then you can do that with this method, because basically all you're investing in is some screws, some wire, and then dealing with the hot tub covers, which I ended up getting for free. So thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Hope you enjoy this, and here we go. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is get a measurement for the size that I need, and then I'll show you how I cut those. So when I cut the styrofoam, I put my saw blade in backwards. This is a kind of a wore out blade anyway, but I put it in backwards and it cuts the foam pretty well. It does make a mess, so be prepared for that. Most of the covers are 2 to 3 to 4 inches thick, so in some cases you're not going to cut all the way through, which usually isn't a problem. And basically just take it out to the end of the saw portions and then give it a little bit. You can see that the cut is pretty good, so that's what we're looking for, and then we'll put it in place. All right, so the next part of this is that I measure every 2 feet on each of the boards, and I offset it by a foot, if that makes sense. You'll see here in a second what I'm talking about, and that's to run my wire on. So I've already measured and marked, so I'm going to put my screws in, and then we'll start wiring this first piece in. I don't spend too time getting this exact because it doesn't make that much difference if you're off by an inch or two. Basically, you're just running wire off of it. What you want to be conscious of is the top screws are going to have wires from the bottom piece and the next piece. So you want to leave enough room when you start wrapping your wire. So we'll start with that. So I'm going to drop this in. I don't cut them super tight. I don't see any point in fighting with it. So that's what our first piece is going to look like. And I'll go ahead and start wiring this up. What I do is, my first one here was off the wall by a foot. So I'll just wrap this wire on a couple, 2 or 3 loops. And I'm going to go up just about out of wire, so I'm going to have to get some more. But again, this was stuff that I had left over from another project. I just kind of give it a snug push. I'm going to give it a couple wraps around this, like so, and then I'm going to go down to the next spot. When you get down to the end of the roll, it becomes more challenging. And this goes so much more smooth when you're not recording it. Let's see. Okay, so we're going down to this bottom screw again, just kind of giving it a little shove. Make sure these wires are fairly tight. Kind of push them into the foam a little bit. Add a couple wraps. Like I said, get down the end of the wire, it's not as fun. When this was a big roll, it was a lot easier. Again, this is the top screw here is the one that's going to be, I'm going to be using it for the next piece. So you want to leave enough room on these screws to make sure you have room for that wire. Down to this one again, another little push. That's basically what we end up with. You can see that you could technically probably do a 2x4 wall over the top of this if you wanted to. There's room to do that. But that's how the insulation goes. I'm going to take you down to the shop, the other pole barn, so you can see what it looks like on the big scale once it's done. But that's the short version. All right, so one row down. You'll notice that I have a little blower that I use to kind of blow everything off and kind of stay semi-clean. Of course, it sends little particles everywhere, so consideration there if that concerns you. And the other thing I would mention is that, excuse me, if after you get done with putting your wire on and starting to do your layers, and you notice that your wire is not tight enough to your satisfaction, you can always hit it with the power driver and put that screw in a little bit tighter and it'll tighten up the wire. I always stagger the seams also, so the next row I'll put the longer piece on one end, shorter on the other, and that's just a matter of preference of how it looks in the end. We're gonna go down to the shop now and I'll show you what it looks like when you get a whole of the wall done. Okay, so we're down in the big shop and you could see this wall behind me, and the back wall of course is done as well. This is what it kind of ends up looking like in the end. Like I said, it's not a beautiful finished product. It's just something you can do with minimal expense. And so, you know, someday if lumber ever gets affordable again and I want to pony up to frame this in and do some serious insulation, then I can either take this out or even potentially build over it. That's a consideration, but for now this gives you a little bit of a sound barrier, gives a little bit of insulation. With the pellet stove running, it takes the chill off and it does help to keep some of the heat in. The roof is insulated with the regular roofing that they use to, you know, keep it from having condensation. And then I did use a regular purchased product from Home Depot for the doors. And the reason I did that is probably obvious, but you need the exact clearance when you're moving the doors back and forth. These pieces that you put in from the hot tub covers, they vary in size. So you don't get a smooth surface, and they're definitely thicker than 1.5 inches, which is what was needed for these doors. So on the doors, I did purchase those, cut those, and put those in. But the rest of it for the shop, for the most part, like I said, with the exception of the build out on the side, I used the hot tub covers. I have no idea how many I used. Some of them were in better shape than others. Some of them were water saturated, so I wasn't able to keep those or use those. Some of them, if they're just a little bit saturated, they'll dry out. So you kind of got to play all that by ear, and it is somewhat time consuming because you got to unwrap them, take the tape off, take the metal off, and you still got to deal with that vinyl that you take off. My neighbor that does some insulating of his horse barn and goats and so on, he actually leaves the vinyl on. I didn't want to go that route, so anyway, I hope you find this helpful. If you have questions, suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comment. Appreciate all the subscribers and the likes and the sharing of the videos. I did get a new purchase, I think, well, it was on my birthday, so a couple weeks ago, and it'll be on future videos, and that is the post hole digger, or tractor auger, or different names that they have for it. And right now I'm trying to formulate a plan to a safe way to store it. And I've watched a few videos about that, but I haven't come up with what I'm gonna do yet. So anyway, I'm thinking about that, and we'll be digging some holes as soon as I get that all situated. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.